Welcome to The Aspiring Kryptonians, a podcast for Superman fans, hosted by Superman fans, and focused around all things, you guessed it, Superman. After all, we are aspiring Kryptonians. From comics, TV, film and animation, each week we discuss our thoughts on the latest releases, news and even some retrospective reviews. So without further ado, let's get the show on the road. Hello and welcome to episode 38 of the Aspiring Kryptonians podcast with me, Tasman, and the rest of the team, Dave and Sam. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about Shazam, Fury of the Gods, James Gunn directing Superman Legacy, Outright Games' new release, which is DC's Justice League Cosmic Chaos, Superman issue 1 and 2, Superman Lost issue 1, and a reminder of all the upcoming Superman family comic book series that are coming out very soon. So how are we doing, guys?
Doing good. It's been a good March. Definitely feel like we had more releases from DC than last month.
Yeah, it's been very busy, very busy for the website, I think.
Yeah, and things just keep coming, so it's exciting.
Yeah, and we've got all the new releases that we're going to be talking about as well, which are coming. I think the first one starts in April, which is not very far away. Oh, this year's just flown by. It's insane. Okay, so we'll start off with James Gunn directing Superman Legacy, because there's been a lot said about this, and since the announcement, news has kind of been spiraling, and I suppose most of it's been guesswork, but this has actually come to fruition for once. So since the film's announcement, it was confirmed that James Gunn would write the project, but at the time it had no director. A few people expressed in several interviews that they wanted Gunn to take the job. I think Peter Safran was one of the first to actually say that, or maybe that was him dropping a hint that it was going to be James Gunn, and he knew that already. And then Tom King went on to do I think he did a YouTube interview about something else, but then the DC Studios announcement popped up in conversation, and he sort of said that it was James Gunn that was going to be directing. So I think that may have been an accidental confirmation.
Yeah,
I don't know, because coming from Tom King, who was former CIA, you'd think he'd be a little bit more tight-lipped about things.
Oh yeah, true.
Right.
It might have been accidentally on purpose type of thing,
Yeah, but do you think? Well, it was like a few days after that, then James Gunn announced the news on social media. So do you think that's why I thought it was accidental, because then he kind of had to confirm it at that point because it was already out there in the wild.
Well, it might be kind of one of those things, where they knew and they weren't really specifically told not to tell, but it was this, it's coming out anyway. So who knows? I'm sure King is not getting in any trouble for that.
Yeah, what are your thoughts about him directing it and writing it?
Oh, okay, yeah. Honestly, I feel like he was going to be at the very least producer when it was first announced. I feel like he was definitely going to be a part of it. I'm not for the new DC films. I'm not even sure the team of directors he has chosen for everything. I'm really interested to see all the different directors they'd use for Supergirl and whatnot. It'd be really interesting to see. But I definitely had a feeling James Gunn was going to be involved, and I absolutely welcome it. I've been watching all of his older movies, Slither and what was that other movie with
Oh, he did Slither. I forgot about that.
That was his first directorial. Yeah, there was that. There was the other Super. I can't forget. I think it was called Super. Yeah, Super with Rainn Wilson. That was another good one.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, it's a funny little superhero one. With Rainn Wilson from The Office. He's in a funny red costume. He's riding on a bicycle or something. It's hilarious. But honestly, he's definitely a flexible director. I feel like he's a character actor in director's terms. So I'm really excited to see what he does with Superman, especially with Guardians of the Galaxy 3 coming up.
Yeah,
it's super interesting to see. I kind of had a guess he was going to be directing it. I really how he's because he started writing it 6 months before it was announced. So he's been on it for a while. I don't know if it just started out as a pet project he was doing, or they hired him directly. I'm really interested to see how he got on that. I wonder if he was just writing a Superman thing in his free time, and they were oh, this is good, or
yeah. I always like to know what goes on behind the scenes and things like that, and how they put the teams together. How about you, Dave? What are your thoughts?
It's not really a surprise. As excited he has been, that. His excitement is palpable. You can see it every time he talks about it. So for him to have not been the director or or like Sam said, some executive producer or something would have been a shock. But yeah, I mean, I think he's gonna have to dig deep on this, because his later works, talk about Guardians, talk about Peacemaker, Suicide Squad, they're a bit more, I don't want to say goofy, that's not quite the word, but there's more comedy involved in it, and where I think that could work for Superman, those tones, I don't know, it'd be interesting, like I'm not against it. I'd just be like, that would be something we haven't seen before for sure,
Yeah.
So but he's very versatile, so I don't think it'll be bad. Like I can't imagine that. Like I'm not like, oh man, this is gonna be the worst thing ever, So, but I'll definitely, I'm kind of okay. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, for me, I think I'm excited for it, because I just want to see what he does with it and what his take is and what his take on that story is. But at the same time, like I said, with the last, like the Guardians of the Galaxy, there's a lot of comedy in that, and I don't think, although comedy kind of worked in Superman the movie, the way they did it sort of subtly, I don't know if it would work now. And I think if he tries to mimic that, I think what he would do well is like the Clark Kent awkwardness. I think he would nail that, the comedic value of that. But then I don't want it to turn into one of those things where it's what happened to Superman Returns, where people wanted that storyline to carry on, and then because of the times and those, the comedy value of it didn't sort of hit, and the story didn't hit. I just don't want it to be one of those kind of things.
I think if you're looking for like comedic but also like extremely valid Superman, I think the story to read would be Superman American Alien and Max Landis. That's like, there's definitely like comedy in that, but it's like true to the original like meaning of Superman.
Yeah,
it was just it's really neat. Like I'm surprised James Gunn isn't carrying that around with him, but rather he's carrying around All-Star Superman. He's carrying around the Grant Morrison masterpiece. So it's neat. And when we talk about Justice League Cosmic Cast, I definitely want to talk more about Superman as like a comedic force, because definitely has some stuff for that in that game.
It's coming up. I've put it in the agenda. With James Gunn directing it, I think with him both directing and writing it, it's definitely going to be his vision. So I think what happened with the whole Zack Snyder Justice League and that storyline, where he had his vision and then it was kind of interfered with and sort of completely changed. We know that's not going to happen anymore. So it's quite nice to know that that's safe from not happening again, because if you're going to be a writer and a director of a film, you want to tell the story that you want to tell, and getting it changed is probably devastating for them, and well, obviously for the fans as well watching it. But the way that he announced it, the tribute that he put to his dad, that was really nice. It was really touching, and the way, like you said, the way he talks about the character, he's really passionate about him. He's obviously doing research, reading back all these comics, and it'll be interesting to see what comics he gets it'd be interesting to see if it's like an adaptation of a comic or whether it's going to be his own sort of twist on it.
Or a conglomerate of a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I think that's what, I mean, it's a little off topic, but I think that's what made the Batman work, because it was kind of a conglomerate of like 2.5 stories, So, if they do the kind of same thing, the same approach with Legacy, that would probably be the way to go. Something fresh, something new, but still familiar. Probably cover all the bases that way.
Yeah. And just if you're listening live, then feel free to join in, throw your opinions at us, and we will bring them up and start talking about whatever topics you may suggest. But Superman Legacy has been confirmed for an exact release date as well with that announcement, and it's going to be on the 11th of July 2025. I put 2023 on here, and I just put my hopes up on my notes. I put 2023. 2025, which is a long way away. I think he did say that recently that would get some sort of casting announcements within the year, I think. So at least we have something to look forward to, I guess.
Yeah, little by little.
Yeah.
Those things that going to go away in the media for a while, so I'm sure we'll get, first looks and, pirated photos like we did with everything else. So
again, off topic, but did you see the recent one of Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn?
As Harley, yeah. No, the way they want to go with that new Joker movie, picking her for Harley, I was all like, yeah, of course, this is going to be amazing. Like,
Yeah.
probably better than the first one. So
I just need to know the songs in that movie. I just need to know what kind of songs. Like they were going to
well,
sing.
if it's musical, it'll be all the original stuff.
No.
So.
It would be. Do you think they're actually going to go down that whole musical route, or do you think it's
They have
just
Lady Gaga. I mean,
Well, I know, but you know, I'm trying to think of something else that she's done where she hasn't sang. I don't think she has
She
actually.
hasn't sang?
I don't think she has. Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, she's a singer. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I just think when I'm picturing it being a musical, I just think it's going to be weird, and I can't imagine it. But
it is.
because this film is going to be so it's so twist your mind, like it's what you think is going to happen doesn't happen. So I think it could be interesting if they do go down that route. But I guess once again we'll find out later in the year, I suppose. So we'll move on to, I think this is one of the things that has been talked about quite a lot recently. Shazam! Fear of the Gods. Obviously, it came out on the 18th of March, so it's been out for quite a while. We probably will go into some spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. So if you are listening and you haven't seen it, feel free to. Well, I haven't put many spoilers in my notes, but I don't want to spoil the plot for you. But just off the bat, what are your initial quick thoughts about the film? And then we'll go into sort of a deep dive.
I saw it. I ended up seeing it on Tuesday with my dad, and honestly, I mean, we both had fun with it. I mean, we like Shazam. We think he's like one of the best. Like nowadays, he's not seen as so much as a Superman clone, but like when I first like got introduced to him, he like sort of was. So it's like I love watching his Avengers. I love the supporting cast. The New 52 reinvention was kind of neat. Sometimes I do prefer like stories where Billy's like, you know, living on his own, or like he's like a massive Superman fan and he just like stays like inspired every day, and that's like what got him his powers. It was really neat. Like I love the character of Billy Batson, so I'll always be like watching like whatever comes out with like other villains. I think it was neat. It was like a neat story. Like I don't see a lot of like Shazam stories that don't have Black Adam in them, so I don't know like all of his what he usually deals with. But it's a lot of like magic stuff, a lot of like Seven Realms. It's neat. It's like Magic Superman, exactly. This was the shirt I wore to see it.
Nice. How about you, Dave?
I thought it was really good. In fact, the more I thought about it, the more I think I liked it better than the first one. There's a lot of, I wouldn't say problematic things in the first one, but the biggest complaint that the first one got, I felt, was Billy and Captain Marvel Shazam did not feel like the same person. And this one, they fixed that. Like to me, I felt like, you know, it didn't matter which version he was Billy. And I thought that really carried through a lot better. But yeah, I liked how it tied into the, you know, it's like a direct sequel, but it's a whole different reason why it's a direct sequel. And, you know, there's no, it just, I don't know. I thought it was great. I thought it was a really fun movie. It was really family friendly. A lot of laugh. It was less goofy comedy, more just laugh out loud moments.
Yeah.
Like especially with, you know, certain mythical creatures being the fearful thing of all other mythical creatures.
Oh, yeah.
I was laughing hard at that.
How he did all those like creatures was great. They all looked like modern day like Ray Harryhausen creatures.
Yeah.
I love that.
And instantly recognizable. Like you didn't have to be like, oh, that's just a monster. It's like, no, that's a specific monster.
Yeah.
You know,
Seven Voices Sinbad, yeah. That was neat.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. I thought I agree with you, Dave. I think it's better than the first one. I think especially when I'm thinking like to watch it again, I would prefer to watch the second one over the first one. Yeah. I think I did enjoy the first one, but this one just has more in it for me, I think. And I like all the magic stuff. I like that mythological aspect of any film. So I think they've combined my sort of favorite things together. So yeah, that's why I prefer this one. But for those that haven't really seen it yet, just a brief overview of what the film is about. So Shazam and the rest of his superpowered family start to find themselves drifting apart, and just then 3 godly sisters return to Earth to get their revenge on those who destroyed their world. With Shazam and his family being the new champions of Earth, they naturally fall into their path of revenge, and they have to take action to save the world from being destroyed. So again, like I said, not too many spoilers here, but I genuinely want people to go and see this film because I feel like a lot of people are writing it off because they don't think it's going to continue with the DC Studios reboot and they think it's pointless. But at the end of the day, if you enjoy a film, regardless of whether it continues, it's not pointless. You've enjoyed yourself. You've, like how many times have I watched Superman the movie recently? Like since we knew that it wasn't going to carry on as such, but I still enjoy it, and I still don't think that's pointless and a waste of time. Like I think, yeah, it's worth going to see whether or not it does continue. There are also a lot of people that don't want to see it because they don't agree. I think Zach Levi did a whole social media thing just before the film, which probably not the best timing, but he sort of was going on the whole anti-vaxxer sort of road. But again, like we said, similarly to the Ezra Miller, not saying that this is as bad as what Ezra Miller has been accused of, but it's important to separate the art from the artist because, other people's worked really hard on this film. I just think people should give it a chance. I know the box office has been a little bit rubbish, but I think it's just down to that basically. And I think just give it a chance and I think you're going to enjoy it.
Well, I think there's also still, even though we're 3-ish years out from shutdowns and whatnot, there's still trepidation going to the movie theater, especially when like in 3 or 4 months it's going to be on streaming. So I can wait, there's that whole mentality. So I don't know if box office, I know that's what they want to focus on, but I'm not sure if that's what they should be focusing on.
That's true, yeah.
What else are you going to quantify it with? So I don't know, but yeah, it's really, it was worth the time. It was worth the effort. It was a fun flick and had some really heartfelt moments. It makes fun of itself in some of those heartfelt moments, which I actually kind of thought was great.
There was one part of the heartfelt moments. Well, we've already said there's going to be spoilers, but you kind of have to say what it is to be able to explain it. But where he finally calls Rosa mum, I think I think they should have done that a little bit, played on that a little bit longer. I think they just did it a little bit more thing and then just moved on to the next thing.
I think Shazam had more screen time than Billy. But when Billy did have screen time, he's a great Billy Batson. He really is. He's like Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker. It just fits.
Yeah. Yeah, but this, what you were saying about the designs of the monsters and stuff, the special effects I thought they were great. The dragon, the unicorns, all the other monsters, the designs are great. The new costumes are great as well. Because it wasn't just one costume they had to design; it was for the whole family plus the villains as well, and they looked amazing. I thought. And there were some moments where I think it's when Anthea sort of uses her power, where all the buildings sort of move and the ground moves, and that just reminded me of like Inception. It was just so good.
Or Doctor Strange when they go to the Mirrorverse, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I thought it was great. But the action was great as well. But I do have one complaint, and this is probably my biggest complaint of the whole film is that with all the Shazam family having powers. I know there's a scene at the beginning where they're all working together. I would have liked to see more of that because it seemed like every time they did fight, some of them would lose their powers and then, things like that. But I think that was my only complaint because I think it would have benefited from more action with them.
Yeah, especially at the climax when him and Mary were really working together, and they're passing the apple. They were passing the apple around, kind of this big game of keep away, and they were just losing their powers left and right. It would have been a little bit nice if I kind of agree with you. There should have been more. Like they did great at the beginning, like you said, and then it just kind of loopers off and becomes more Shazam centric. I have trouble saying Shazam. I grew up with Captain Marvel. So
honestly, I got introduced to him in like 2008. He was still using the Captain Marvel.
Yeah, he was still Captain Marvel. So, but then that's the other side of the fence now. So nope, it's Shazam.
That's true. And the villains, Calypso, Anthea. Well, I say villains lightly because, and Hespera, Lucy. So that was Lucy Liu, Rachel Zalga, and Dame Helen Mirren. I thought they were amazing.
They stole the show every time they were on scene.
Yeah, that's it. I feel like now, if there's another Shazam film, I want them to be in it.
Yeah.
because I really like their characters, and I thought they were great additions to the story, like the whole mythology and the magic kind of thing, and also the film. And they're not in the comics, are they? These are completely new characters that have been.
Are they?
That's what
I don't know, but I feel like they would be because they went with the Greek myths, right? And so that's Themyscira and Wonder Woman, which there's a reason why that happens later.
I think they are in comics, but not necessarily in Shazam comics. Or
so I don't know if they exist there or not. I don't know. I don't read enough Shazam.
No, I don't think I've actually read any Shazam comics, which is quite bad. Probably shouldn't.
I read a lot, but I mean, I don't think I've ever seen them. It's always like Mr. Mind, Black Adam. There was one really good issue where him and Black Adam had to fight Superboy Prime.
Yeah.
Like, well, no, he's never good news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, Dave, there's a lot of laughs in this one as well. So if you've seen the first one, you kind of know what kind of humor to expect. But I think it did change a little bit. It was a bit more, like I said, it wasn't as goofy. It felt more natural with the
I don't really want to say it was smarter because some of it was blatant, like when Anthea is giving her like you're the hero. It's not to Freddy. And the wizard's sitting back there going, "Oh, come on!" It's not always. There's this moment that could be just like, "Oh," and he's there's stuff like that. But
I thought a lot of the laughs for me were from Freddy and the wizard's sort of I suppose relationship that they built together in this film. I thought they stole the show for me in terms of comedic value. They were hilarious together.
Yeah, they had great comedic timing.
And then
the guy who plays Freddy's hero form, like he was supposed to be Superman in Justice League Mortal. It was like that canceled George Miller movie.
What's his name? Adam.
No, I didn't know that. That's a bit of trivia.
It was him, and there was another guy. I think he either played another suit. I can't remember his name. He was also like a member of Shazam family. He was supposed to be the Flash. Like they auditioned for those roles because George, like if you can find the script to it, George Miller, like Mad Max, was writing a Justice League movie, and there was a really cool like fight scene with like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman like breaking it up. Really cool. It's called Justice League Mortals.
Okay.
Never saw the light of day. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I have to look that one up. I know we're going to skip a little bit, but to the post-credit scenes where we mentioned before, like whether it's going to continue or not, I think the post-credit scenes left it very much open. The first one, it was actually, hold on, before we get into that, let's talk about the cameos in the film. So the first, it's not a spoiler because it's been advertised in the promotion. So as we know, Wonder Woman is in the film, and it's Gal Gadot. The first one, I thought the director David Sandberg, I thought he was playing with us, wasn't he? Because it's got the whole, you can see the back of Wonder Woman, you can see her costume, and then when it shows the face, it's when Billy Batson's dreaming, and it's the wizard's face, and I will tell you now, I was crying. It was so funny. I just wasn't expecting. I don't know what I was expecting to see, but it wasn't that.
And again, he's kind of poking fun at himself for having to do that with Superman in the first one. So it was like, oh, here we go again. It was kind of great.
And I thought that was going to be it. And I thought because everyone was talking, there's all rumors about the Wonder Woman making a cameo in the film, and I'm sure they released action figures.
They did,
branded Shazam with Wonder Woman on it. But yeah, I thought he was going to leave it at that. But then obviously we got the full cameo towards the end with Gal Gadot herself. So, I mean, if this does continue, then it means she is still the Wonder Woman in the DC Studios universe, because obviously the announcement that we've got to do with Wonder Woman is the Themyscira series, which is set before her. So there's no reason why it still can't be her.
Couldn't be her. Yeah.
And then the second post-credit scene, the first one was going back to the roots with Mark Strong, who played Dr. Sivana and Mr. Mind.
Oh, that was your first one?
Yeah.
That was my last one. Interesting. Anyway, go on.
I'm pretty sure it was the first one. I might be wrong. But it still happened. So that one was kind of playing on the post-credit scene from the first one where we saw Mr. Mind sort of, and he just continues to hatch his plan, but we still don't know what it is. And I think we are the Mark Strongs in that series, in that sequence, because he's getting really agitated because he doesn't know what's happening, and we're kind of in that same situation. But that could continue. Obviously, there's some sort of master plan behind those post-credit scenes, because you wouldn't just put that same character in there twice. And also the second one, which, well, I suppose, Dave, in your case, it's the first one, but when we see Jennifer Harcourt and John, I can't remember John's last name in the series, but they're from Peacemaker and Suicide Squad. So in that scene, they confirm the existence of the JSA as a functioning team. And they also mentioned the Authority, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting, yeah.
Obviously, it was a bold move to include those characters. First of all, obviously, there's all these rumors of who it should have been or was supposed to be. I think it was supposed to be.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well. So yeah, it's just bold to include those characters and have it not go anywhere, because we know Peacemaker is confirmed to be part of the DC overall studios plan. It's not in the first wave, but it's still happening. The series 2 is still happening. So with that said, I think, well, I was going to say it's dependent on the box office, but depending on the reaction to this film, if people are waiting to stream it when they do eventually see it, I do think Shazam has a future in the overall plan. Personally,
that would be nice. Yeah.
I also thought it was interesting that it made another connection that Waller has some sort of control over the JSA.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're really going with that. That's kind of fascinating,
True. And yeah, if they do continue that storyline, and Shazam does join the JSA, then I hope even though the cameos were supposed to be Hawkman and Dr. Fate, I hope it sorry, not Dr. Fate, Cyclone. I hope those characters continue their run, because at this point now, I know they've only been in one film, but I can't imagine anybody else playing those characters at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
And the Authority, that's already confirmed to be coming with DC Studios anyway, so that really fit in. And there's such a niche group that unless it means something, I feel like they probably would have just stuck with the JSA and not mentioned the Authority.
Yeah,
this is a short segue. No, go ahead, Dave. It's all good.
I was going to say, if they weren't important scenes, they were after credit scenes, they could easily just cut them right before the release. So, why keep them in the movie?
Well, and they said with the Jennifer Harcourt one, it wasn't supposed to be them, so that's been thrown in last minute to shoot, to go out with the film. So it's not. I don't think it's for nothing. I don't think it's a hope. I think it could be. It's a sly confirmation, I think, but don't take my word for it, just in case I'm wrong. But fingers crossed, that's what happens. Anything? Oh, go on, Sam.
This is just a quick, just side note. I was reading an Authority comic, just to get ready for the movie, and one of their main villains is Henry Bendix. Actually, that's where he came from.
Bendix was a new character. I didn't realize he was.
Before fighting John Kent, he was against the Authority, and it's cool. See, he was definitely more in rated R comics, doing more crazy stuff. He's crazy Lex Luthor.
That makes sense, actually, because I thought, because it sounded so close to Bendis, I thought. I
knew he was original. He wasn't based off the guy, but I knew he was original. I just wanted to know where he came from. I guess he came from Wildstorm with the Authority.
Oh yeah. I didn't know that. I thought he was a new character in that series. Anything else to say on Shazam before we move on to the next one?
I don't think so.
No, not really. I mean, I'm just
go watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want something to come of it, then you have to show your support and make sure that DC Studios and James Gunn see that.
How often is there a superhero movie with a superhero who flies now? We're all it's always good seeing those.
True. And Sam will let you talk about something that you're very excited to talk about, I can tell. But Outright Games released a DC's Justice League Cosmic Chaos game. So it's out now. Sam, do you want to tell us the overall plot of the game?
Oh, the plot is all super easy and cutesy. Honestly, it uses I think I already said this in my review. It uses a lot of I guess the lesser known Silver Age characters. Like it takes place in Happy Harbor, so not Metropolis or Gotham or anything. It's Happy Harbor, setting of Young Justice. So you get to have like the Mount Justice location there too. And the Justice League member Snapper Carr, you know, the guy with no powers who just snaps a lot. He's like an older character in the comics. Sometimes he'll like make appearances in the modern ones. But yeah, he's like the main character. He becomes mayor, and Mr. Mxyzptlk, you know, invades, you know, Earth, and with his one motivation, which is annoying Superman. Like that's literally the whole plot. It's him annoying Superman. And this is interesting because this Superman has never met Mxyzptlk before. And it's also this Justice League, they're not super old, but they've definitely seen some villains, and some villains they haven't seen yet. Like there's a side mission where he meets Bizarro for the first time. Like there's where like they first meet. It's really neat. And this is also his first time meeting Mxyzptlk. So the whole game is like, it's really interesting the enemies they chose. Like they went with an underwater theme. Like all the enemies and bosses are like fish themed and like fish like puns. There's always like fish puns. Like when I was playing that made me feel like it was supposed to be another game that takes place underwater, but they threw in, you know, DC at the last minute and just made it work. But
where's Aquaman?
He has a small role. It starts off with Mxyzptlk brings Starro over, and Starro captures all the League members except the Trinity. And the League in this one, it's Cyborg, Green Lantern, John Stewart, and the Flash, and the Trinity. So it's like 6 people, and like the whole game, you're rescuing them, you're stopping Starro as he gets like more powerful and tries to like upserve, you know, Mxyzptlk. And there's also like a bunch of side missions with villains that you can fight. There's the Bizarro side mission, like I said. There's a Lobo one. There's a Blue Snowman one.
I'd be interested to see how they've done Lobo, because this film is aimed sort of towards the younger audience, isn't it?
Yeah, Lobo. It's interesting. Like his overworld is a space bar that got transported there, and you're just going around collecting bounties for him. And at the end, of course, you get to fight him. It's all neat. There was one Wonder Woman villain they brought back for a side mission. It was Blue Snowman, who I didn't even know was a real villain. Blue Snowman is he's like from 1943, so she's an old Wonder Woman villain. And I think her dad was the original like Blue Snowman, and then she assumed the mantle like as like a man sort of. So in the new like it was a big reveal when she took off her helmet and it was a woman. But in the new like version, Rebirth, I think Greg Rucka redid like her character to make her more like timely. So she's like kind of like a non-binary character now. Like she doesn't really, like identify, like hence why she's going as Blue Snowman. I think that was like in the Rebirth story. Like I never heard of her, and it's funny because the Justice League makes like a bunch of quips about, you know, having ice villains. Like, is this your ice villain? No, it can't be mine. I don't have any ice villains. I'm Superman. Like, is it Mr. Freeze? No. Is it Captain Cold? Like, no, it's Blue Snowman, someone who's been here longer than they have. It's really cool. There's like a lot of meta commentary in that. It's definitely fun. What I really want to talk about that is like Superman's role in it. So in like the game, he's voiced by Nolan North, who did like the voice in Young Justice. He's a Superman before. However, he's also like the official voice of Deadpool. And you can see like there's sort of like a combination with them here, because with the Flash like out of the picture, not making jokes the whole game, that kind of falls on Superman. So he's also makes a lot of dad jokes. It's jokes that fit his personality. He makes a lot of puns. He's kind of the big galoot that James Gunn like envisions. Like Batman will usually have to tell him like, hey, do this, but then sometimes he'll figure it out on his own. It's really interesting seeing him like that. And of course, like he's always smiling. He's always like doing the right thing. It's neat. Like it was really cool. And he makes you laugh. Like Superman makes you laugh in that game. It's really something having him as like the Joker in that.
I've seen some of the gameplay that you shared with me, but it does look fun. It looks like, like I said, it's one for all the family. You can get stuck in. It's not too serious, because sometimes I think with video games, like even Gotham Knights, the most recent release, I get so stressed playing games. Like I feel like it's life or death. It's real. So having something fun and quirky like that, I think, is a lot better for me.
Justice League Cosmic Cast uses just like a very simple beat 'em up formula. Like you're just going from room to room. And the best part about it is they don't feel long at all. It doesn't feel like you're fighting for hours on end. The levels, like honestly, they could go on for like 15 minutes max. Like, did
you complete the game, or are you still going?
I did. I actually did all the missions. Yeah, you could beat the main game. It's like in 3 chapters. I think you could beat the main game in like under 3 hours.
Oh wow!
Well, that's short.
It is, yeah. 3 hours is kind of like short for a game, but then like along that's not counting the side missions, which are also their own thing. With like it's all like dungeon crawls. It's neat. It's neat. All the different powers are great too. Like if you upgrade like the right stuff, like Superman's like laser vision and Wonder Woman's like power gauntlets, like you could like clear enemies with like it's really fun.
It sounds fun. I'm not gonna lie. I think I will invest in this game at some point. I'm still playing Hogwarts Legacy,
Neat.
which I've played it probably twice. I've enjoyed it, but I just don't. I don't get the time anymore.
About it, but I've like Harry Potter. I've only watched the first 2 movies. I never really got into it, but I know it's crazy. I know it's.
I grew up with Harry Potter pretty much.
I know.
When it came out, I was growing up with the character like same age, so I loved it. Everyone around me loved it. It was a big part of my life, and I collected Harry Potter stuff as well when I was younger, like, and eventually replaced it with Superman. But yeah, so I got it for this nostalgic value, but it's definitely like the gameplay is like so usually when they tell the story bit, I usually skip those kind of bits just so let me play the game, but I actually sit and watch it because it looks so good.
Yeah, one more thought about Justice, and this isn't a spoiler. It's when you get to the credits of Justice League Cosmic Cast, they have this really nice like in memoriam section, like starting off the credits, like all the DC legends we lost the past year, like Neil Adams, George Perez, Kevin Conroy was there, so that also probably means he was probably going to voice Batman in that game.
Oh yeah.
They also included Gilbert Gottfried, which means that he probably was going to come back and voice Mixelflick.
Yeah,
he was
totally such a great Mixie.
I love those episodes. Those are the best episodes of the whole. Where he was Mixelflix just messing with Superman. Yeah. Gilbert Gottfried was one of those celebrities like Jerry Seinfeld and Howard Stern, where he loved Superman. Like I think he wrote a Superman story one time.
And you know what? He's my favorite Superman villain. I think because he's just. I know, like in terms of power sets and how dangerous they are. There's a lot more out there that are more dangerous and more twisted in a way. But I like how stupid it is because the old comics I'm reading at the moment, he's trying to think of all these different ways to get him to say his name backwards, and some of them are just insane, like insanely stupid. But I just like how innocent it all is.
Yeah, there's a funny scene in the game where you go into Mr. Mixelflix's house in the 5th dimension, and he has a phone, just a regular phone. It's like a universal phone, and he has an app on it. It's called Tinder. It's like Tinder, but it's called Super, and it enables him to go through every multiverse and see what Superman lives there, and he gets to pick which one he wants to mess with. there is no alternate version of Mr. Mixelflix. There's no like an Earth 2. There's only one. So he gets to pick.
He goes through
every day's a new Superman.
They've even hinted at that throughout the different companies because there's comic,
where like he's literally like, it's different sometimes.
Where I can't remember when it was, but you see a green-legged being being chased by the feet are, they're blue and black, and there's one that's kind of rock shaped, and then he pops out and is like, I'll be right back, and he's Mixie in DC. And that's a reference to was it Impossible Man or Mr. Impossible or something with the Fantastic Four over at Marvel. That's always messing with them. So they've hinted that he's the same, like any imp that shows up and messes with this dimension, it's him. It's just there's no difference. So,
and it's nice to know that our comments are actually working. I was getting worried that it wasn't connected. And he goes on to say that he's the Impossible Man in Marvel. Yeah. Okay, so Sam, you gave it 3 stars out of 5. I really like doing these star ratings at the moment. It's just like a quick look, and you can see what you kind of thought of it. But yeah, I love that it features my favorite Superman villain. I like the sound of this game, I'm not going to lie, and I like that it's aimed towards a younger audience because I think it's really important to get younger audiences interested in these characters for them to carry on. But the game is available now on PS4, PS5, Switch, Xbox, and Steam, which I didn't actually know what Steam was.
Steam is great. It's like the foremost PC thing.
Yeah. I'd never heard of it until recently, so that threw me off at first. So let's move on to Superman issue 1 and 2, which are some of the new releases from the Superman family comic books recently. So this one's written by Joshua Williamson with art by Jamal Campbell. And what I love this series already. It's only 2 issues in, it's just had such a great start.
Absolutely. Like this thing hit out of the park first issue, and it's just not stopped. It's like you said, 2 issues in, and you're always already going, what? You know, so.
And we're lucky because we have review access, so we get, I think they upload 3 weeks ahead comic, and the comics 3 weeks ahead. So when the issue 1 finished, luckily issue 2 was on there, and I was I just need to know what happens. So now I'm patiently waiting for DC to update the next one so I can read the next issue, because it's great. And what I want to talk about the artwork first, just because it's stunning. It's Jamal Campbell's got a real way with these characters. Like, it has a real classic comic book vibe to it, but it also feels like modern art. Like, it's really rare to be able to put those two together, like stick to the classic. Well, he's given some of the characters a new sort of look, but you know, Superman is classic. He looks how he did like way back when. And there are panels and pages where, you know, I want to see what's on the next page, see what's going on, but I just have to sit and stare at some of the panels because they're just so they're amazing.
I love it when like any Superman series, like newer just continuing gets like a big kick from like a new creative team, and you just feel how different it is. Like in the New 52 when Jeff Johns like jumped on for Men of Tomorrow, that really brief like story, like it felt different. Like when you open like the first issue, even with like the title page, is really neat, especially like brings back like all like the villains like that you haven't seen like in a while. Like I think in that story like began with Superman fighting Titano, which no one has seen in like years and years. It's like, oh, we're going back to like, you know, classic Superman things.
And I like how different this art, like just talking about the art, not necessarily the story in general, but how different it looks to the other books as well. But sometimes I find it difficult to recognize certain characters in different artists' work. So if you're used to seeing them drawn by whoever, and then you see somebody else draw the same character, sometimes it takes me a while to realize who they are. But it's sort of it's very cohesive, I thought.
Yeah.
And there are some great covers as well. I'm not going to go through them all because there are tons. We were just talking about this before live on air. So I think this one has 10 covers, which, you know, isn't. There's been worse, but it doesn't do my bank account any good.
There's one I need to pick DC's brain over, because it's the one where Lois is opening up the shirt and, you know, behind Clark. I actually have that as a wedding photo of my wife doing that to me. So because I wore a Superman shirt underneath my tux.
That's amazing.
And, so I keep meaning to find that photo and be like, hey, wait a minute, but I haven't done it yet.
You're gonna have some words with Jorge Jimenez. He's probably seen it.
Like, dude, you were not there at my wedding. Why did you steal my photo?
Oh, that's good though. I love that. I think I said that. Do you remember the Naomi issue 1 cover where it's like Naomi looking into her locker and she's got Superman everywhere? And I was like, hold on a minute. I was like, that's me.
There it is.
Superman I just want to bring up what Wayne said. To get early issues, it's good to be the queen. Little bow for you there. So
good to work with the queen.
Oh, sorry, go on.
So it's also good to work with the queen. So
this is a great jumping on point as well. So if you haven't been reading the Superman comics that have been released, well, the new Superman comics that have been released for a while, and it's pretty daunting sometimes to get stuck back in this. But this first issue gives you all of the background that you need to get started. They are in a way interconnected, but you don't actually have to read all of them to know what's going on with this, which I quite like. And as well as the artwork having a classic comic book vibe, Joshua Williamson's brought back some very classic and, in my opinion, underused characters. So Livewire was the first. I think that was the first page, wasn't it? Livewire for the first issue, and then Parasite. The mad scientists, I can't remember their names. Are they?
They've only named one, and it's Mr. Farm, and I don't recall ever seeing any of these characters before. One of them in the Hawaiian shirt, I thought for a minute was Morrow, T.O. Morrow. But I don't, like, the more they got to talking, the more I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Right?
So I don't know who the rest of them are, and it's driving me nuts. I'm like,
well, I guess they might be. Well, they did say they were going to throw some new characters in there, so maybe these are the new ones. But the way they've brought them in, I think, is great. So going back to Livewire a moment. So she, so far in the first 2 issues, she hasn't played hugely into the plot as of yet. She's been there for sort of, I thought, comedic value. Like the way her personality in those pages were very now, like talk about, oh, my followers this, my followers that.
Yeah.
And she's very dramatic. But yeah, she had a very relevant breakdown about her followers missing out on what she's getting up to, which I thought was quite funny. And she's still around. She did a little cameo in the 2nd issue when Lex Luthor's talking to Superman, and I think keeping her in like that. And I think when they first announced the series, her design was one of the first that they released. So I feel like she's going to have a lot more to play than this. So I hope we get to see her more because I really like Livewire.
I have a feeling she's going to play a part in the cleanup of the Parasite story because all the power's out. So you got this power battery person.
Livewire is an interesting character too. I swear there was one occasion where I saw her in the Superman blue suit, like Clark, like she was like wearing the insignia for a little bit.
Yeah. She went good for a while, like towards the man who wrote that. It was after the 1 year later stuff when they did whichever crisis that was, where they jumped forward a year and did the 52 and all that good stuff. They gave her the suit to help control her powers, and she was running around with the Titans for a good few issues or something, and then kind of went back into obscurity.
Yeah,
until now.
So, I always like the whole like shock jock, like also like that's an obvious pun, but the whole shock jock occupation in like juxtaposition to like Clark's journalism. So I don't know if Clark Kent has ever interacted with Livewire like himself, but it's like shock jocks and journalists are sort of, because shock jocks just kind of, they're going for gas. They say stuff on the radio that may or may not be true. But,
they don't care.
And then journalists, meanwhile, it's like nothing but the truth. So it's like really interesting seeing them, come together.
Well, that would be, I don't think I've seen them together actually thinking about it, but there's a lot of comics that I haven't read, so maybe I've missed that. But in this, I feel sorry for Superman because he has all of these villains pretty much hitting him all at once. So it's like straight after Livewire, you get the Parasite, and then, we've got Lex Luthor trying to help him with his Parasite problem in exchange for his freedom, which we found out in the 2nd issue. But I love this relationship that they've got because in the overall story, I think mainly Action Comics, he's very serious and very hateful towards Superman in what his plan is with Metallo, and this one seems like a different. It seems like a different Lex Luthor, and he's more comedic. I think, but that's the only disconnect that I get from the connected, sort of interconnected bit. I think Lex Luthor seems like a different character to me.
Has that issue come out yet where he's gone to, or is that coming out this week?
I don't know.
I still need to read, but no, we're only on the second one right now.
Yeah.
But
I didn't hear nothing. I still need to read it.
Yeah, I think their relationship is quite comical in this one. So I love how you can see how well Lex Luthor knows Superman because he's saying everything that he's doing seconds before he does it, and he literally guesses every tactic and decision that he makes. And it also shows the darker side to Lex Luthor because he's saying how he would handle it as well. So I think with Livewire, he was like, "I'll just pin her down and end it," and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, "Jeez, calm down." But he said in his words, his methods were more effective, which yes, they would be, but that's why he's Superman. Why he's Superman and he's in prison.
Well, I also like to kind of the nod back to because there's been more 52-esque origins being confirmed. Like John Henry makes in Action makes the connection with Metallo being that history was there, and I'm thinking, sorry, my throat. I apologize. With Lex, especially in the Superman books, it feels more of that Lex we got in the Justice League, where he was trying to be a good guy but still Lex Luthor, and so it feels a bit more that type of voice. And I loved him as a goodish type. You know,
when
like
he had that robot suit with the
reasons.
when he had the suit, that was
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
He was doing it for the wrong reasons, but he was still doing good.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like what he's doing here. Like it's totally for his own, you know, ego, and I'm sure he has an agenda, and he's wrapped Superman up in it, and haha, I got you. But it's still like, you know, but you're still doing good. So is it really evil? You know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher White says that he's glad that they're taking chances on the larger Superman family and the cast of characters. Me too. Like it's, I do find it difficult so far because there are new characters, and there's characters that they haven't really been mentioned as the Superman family, but are like Keenan Kong?
Yep, Keenan Kong. Yep.
I don't think. I know he's got his own series, but I've never seen him in the pages of a Superman comic before. So trying to get my head around who everybody is and what their personalities are like, especially the new Super Twins. Like we know what they're about, but there's still a lot that they need to learn, and we need to learn about them. So I do like the extension of the Superman family, and I do. So I've seen a lot of people say that there are too many of them and they're just dishing out powers, but the ways in which that these people have the powers, it's explained. It's not, they're not just dishing them out kind of thing.
You can make the same argument about Batman and all his little mini clones of him. I mean, they all have ninja powers like he does.
Yeah, that's a big family. And Christopher also says that Clark interviewed Livewire in the episode of the Superman cartoon. So
I couldn't remember if it was Clark, if it was Lois. So yeah.
Sorry, go on, Sam.
No, I just said cool. Definitely look it up. Me and my dad are just rewatching some episodes of that because I want to show him, the Gilbert Gottfried one and everything.
Yeah.
I
we had to show my kids that one time when he was going through, and that because we was watching some Looney Tunes. I was like, oh, there's a great Superman Looney Tunes reference here, and it's Mixie doing, all the dates going by, and anyway.
Yeah.
Weird aside. Sorry.
It's all right. But we need to talk about Parasite, because this is, I think, is a scarier Parasite than what we've ever seen before. So, we know they call themselves mad scientists. So we don't actually know who they are yet, but we know that they've been experimenting with Parasite, and he's now evolved. So instead of growing larger and more powerful like usual, he now multiplies, and it's kind of more of an infection, isn't it now? So
yeah.
The
like a zombie virus.
Yeah, so the parasites, in plural, are feeding off people's energy, and in this case, they're pretty much taking over Metropolis and people of Metropolis, which is, like you said, very much as on. I feel like that's a big topic at the moment. Obviously, we've got The Last of Us, and now this. So,
that's true.
But yeah, so some spoilers ahead here. So if you haven't read the issues, plug your ears in for a few seconds. But in the first issue, Superman was overcome by the parasites, and he kind of got blacked out, didn't he? And he sort of woke up. This bit really confused me, and I don't know if I've missed something or if I'm right in my theory, which it probably is obvious, but in my head I'm not too sure. But it showed the mad scientist operating on him, but I don't think it's him. It's Bizarro, right?
Bizarro, yeah.
It's Bizarro, yeah, so that's
going crazy. Because I was thinking, we've got Bizarro was actually featured on the cover of issue 1, very small and very subtly, because I didn't see him at first. And then we've got the second the scene in issue 2 where Superman's taking on the parasites, but then it cuts over to him, to those mad scientists operating on something that looks a lot like him on the table. So obviously, that's confirmed. It's Bizarro. That's exciting.
Yeah, that's going to be a thing.
While we're here, let's talk about Mercy Graves. So she's had an upgrade, which I think is from the Lazarus planet thing that happened. She's developed powers, and correct me if I'm wrong, but she has guns as arms now, pretty much, or weapons.
Anything. I think she's kind of techno-organic. Like she can just create whatever she needs.
That's a gadget.
That's
exactly,
She's a bit slicker than Inspector Gadget.
Oh, totally, yeah.
That's really good
character.
Yeah, and that hasn't been really revealed to anyone but Lex. So, and I don't really know if she's even played out a lot in
Well,
issue
she's
1 or 2.
I think in the first issue, didn't she? Well, I've confused. I've mixed the two together, so it could be an either or. But there's a scene where she saves everyone, right? She gets everybody out, and she's
Yeah,
no.
I don't remember.
She's also trying to sell Superman on the idea of Supercore. Supercore, Lex Luthor, like
that. This so just to give context on that. So as an insult to Superman, I guess it's the opposite of what he would want. But while Lex is in prison, he's given the entire company to Superman as has renamed it Supercorp. So I think it's brilliant. There's branded mascots, references to like animated series, like in the artwork. There was that scene where they play a video to everyone, and it reminded me of Jurassic Park. Do you know where he's got the DNA thing? It was like an introduction to the company. I love that. But yeah, they've pretty much thought of everything there. They've got branded everything. But I think I would really like to work there.
It's also neat seeing like a superhero turn like their chance at being rich down, because there was like a part in the Spider-Man comics where Peter Parker did like get in a kind of with Parker. He became like a really big guy, and it was like a whole new like game changer for him. And he absolutely jumped at it, but Superman is turning it down. He's like, nah.
Yeah.
Well, he's trying to, but if he does, then all the people at Lexmark go, well, you don't have a job anymore. So he's like, now what?
Yeah.
You know,
so, rocking a hard place.
Yeah.
And Christopher says, she saves everyone in the first issue of Lazarus Planet. So I knew I'd seen it somewhere, but I wasn't sure where.
Yeah, I'm not sure I think she did off panel, because you kind of see it in issue 2 where she's yelling at people to evacuate the building. But we don't. I don't think she's actually revealed that she's got these abilities to Superman. You know, like it hasn't been.
He came to save Superman, so I think if he would have known, that she could handle herself.
Yeah.
So then, in the final page of the second issue, where we talk about people getting infected, it seems that Superman, we kind of know when it happened, but he is also infected.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see how this plans out, because we know we've got the Superman family are there around, but are they going to come and have to fight Superman and Lois, because Lois is also infected?
Well, and then there's the new character of Marilyn Moonlight. Like I can't think of her not being introduced and then not playing a part. So
when she was first announced, I read this somewhere. When she was first announced, they said that she was going to be the Batman of Metropolis, or the Batman figure. But
Batman.
I don't think
what we've seen reminds me of that OG superhero, the Shadow or whatever.
Yeah,
it reminds me of that,
like a Shadow type character with the guns but then she's also kind of got this light power, because she's the one that revitalizes Clark from being drained from the parasites. So
she's powered by the moon rather than the sun too. It's like there probably only comes out at night too.
Be kind of interesting to see who she is, her motivation.
Well, she's a new character, right? Like brand new.
Yeah. This was her debut.
She's got some sort of Western vibe to her, and she's kind of like Metropolis's Zorro at the moment, I guess. That's what she reminds me of. Yeah. A ghost version.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'm intrigued by the character, but we didn't really get to see much of her. I don't think. Just a little tease, and I'm sure, like I said, she's going to have. Well, she's been announced. She's on. I think she's got several of the covers of issue 1 and issue 2, sorry, just to herself. So I think she's going to play quite a big role. So that'll be interesting. So, but like we were saying, so after we see the panel where Superman's infected, who do you think is going to have to step in and help them out? Is it going to be the Superman family? Is it going to be Mercy and Lex? I'm guessing it's not going to be Bizarro.
I think Bizarro will be in play yet. I don't know. It might be, a Lex and Livewire type of Calvary issue. It's anyone's guess. I have that's one of the great things about right now in Superman comics is like there's really any stories that are being rehashed. There's elements that are being revisited, but they're being done in such a different way that it feels new. It feels like, oh, we're getting all kinds of different stuff. And it's just, I don't know. I can't wait every month now to be like, and that's that book, and this, it's all.
And like, we're being spoiled, but every issue has a different storyline as well, and they're all totally different. Like, some are harsher than others. Like Action Comics is pretty deep, whereas this is quite. It's still pretty scary in terms of the parasite and what's happened to him, but it's more lighthearted, I think, in a way. So it's quite nice to have those different levels, because if you don't like what's happening in Action Comics, you might love what's happening here, and vice versa. So it's quite different. But honestly, it's such a great series so far, and if you do get the chance, please pick it up, because you'll love it. If you love classic Superman comic books, you'll love this.
Really.
So let's move on to Superman Lost. So we've had quite a few new Superman titles. So Superman issue 1. I feel like I say Superman all the time, but this is a Superman podcast. So what would you expect? So Superman Lost issue 1, which is by Christopher Priest with art by Carlo Pagulayan, Jason Paz on inks, and Jeremy Cox on colors. So this so far we've only had the first issue of the 10-part miniseries, but I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. It sets it up. Like, we don't know much yet, but it sets it up. Like, that's just it. I mean, yeah, like, it literally like ends with like him displaced. So I mean, it's different. So it's like just like the explaining like the summary, but there's some good Justice League action scenes in it.
Yeah. And
go ahead.
I've seen quite a few people being skeptical on like, oh, it's Superman and Lois forever. How could he forget her after 20 years and all this sort of stuff? And I was a bit skeptical about him being away for so long. And, the series originally described him as completely forgetting Lois Lane, but I think that was handled really well, and it wasn't as drastic as I thought it was going to be. So the issue started off with some amazing Superman and Lois moments. You feel how strong and real their relationship is, like, from the start. So I think Priest writes their relationship perfectly there. And then Superman goes off on a mission, and to Lois it's just a few minutes, but when he gets back it's clear that there's something wrong, and he just kind of stands in the middle of the room in silence. But yeah, the artwork is great. Again, it's got classic comic book vibes for me, and it really reminds me of like 90s comic book art. And yeah, like I said, Sam, those scenes with the Justice League, there was some great action in there as well, and seeing Wonder Woman use her lasso as a rope, that was pretty cool. I like seeing people utilize their weapons or skills in different ways. Like, that was pretty cool.
Well, she also uses her jet too, because she talks about trying to get the Air Force, and she's like, "Oh, I got him in my jet wash." And Hal Jordan's like, "What?
The invisible jet." I love it.
I bet comic artists love when she uses a jet, because they don't have to draw it.
Yeah,
it's just like, oh, it's there. And what I like about the story so far is that it's unraveling. So we're finding out what's happening at the very same time Lois Lane is, which I really like that. And at the moment where Batman arrives, he acts as a bit of an he kind of explains roughly what's going on. But like Sam said, we still don't have the full story, and we know there's alien involvement in some sort of way. And yeah, we don't know a lot, but I like what I saw so far.
I like it. No, go ahead, Dave.
No, I went last time. You go ahead.
No, I was saying I really like outer space Superman adventures, like the one Tom King did, Up in the Sky, was really good. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's just him, like, just because he could leave the planet anytime he wants, so you could like take him anywhere. So I'm really like interested to see what they're going to have him be doing for these 20 years, considering it already kind of feels like he has been gone for a while on Warworld. Like, how they're going to make it like different, or see what he's going to get up to. Maybe we'll see some like Doctor Who like fiction or something.
There's definitely stuff going to happen for him to come back, moments after he left. But yeah, but that's another thing I'm kind of digging about it, because the story now just fits wherever. Like, it was only a few hours in their continuity, right? So, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if there's some moral dilemmas that he has to face, not knowing that, he's going to erase all of it.
That's true. But, and he kind of has like complete, what's the word? complete freedom in what he's being able to write. He can do anything in there, and it doesn't matter because it didn't technically happen. Or well, it did, but you know what I mean.
This is one of the non-canon stories, like Batman Fortress. Like, it's just one of the ones like an artist or a writer will like put out.
Is someone at work was telling me about a Batman series where Superman is now in prison and Batman now has Superman's powers. Is that Fortress?
Fortress was weird. It was like raise the questions like, are the Kryptonians like war criminals? Are they like hiding something? And like it ends like that. Yeah.
The compromise they had. So I did never bring it up to review it because I didn't care for it. But I did. There's just so like as far as a Batman story goes, it's very Batman. As far as Superman goes, there's things that happen. It's like, but Superman would never do this, so I don't understand why this is even a thing. But yes, at the end of that story, in order to appease this war tribunal that is essentially terrorizing Earth looking for Clark, he gives up his powers, and he's all like, but there still needs to be someone that can protect us, and he gives them to Bruce Wayne. So now Batman, so Superman's human, and Batman is going around as Superman, or Super Bat, or whatever he's called.
It looks like Wayne agrees with you. He says it's serious.
Yeah, it was I think 8 issues. They could have done it in 3. And yeah, they had some of the variations down good, but as far as Superman went, I was very disappointed in where they took the character.
Yeah, because when he told me about it, I was like, that sounds interesting, and I was quite surprised that I didn't know about it. And he was like, you read the Superman comics? I was like, yeah, I read all the Superman titles. He's like, I was like, but I don't know that. Yeah,
Super's only in it for 2 issues, so it's not even
to make
Okay, well, we'll leave that one there. But yeah, I really enjoyed Superman Lost, and I'm looking forward to seeing the mystery unravel. I'm guessing Superman and Lois are going to have to sort of rekindle their love, and it's going to be particularly hard for Lois because to her nothing has changed, whereas it's all on Superman at this point. So it'll be interesting to see what their relationship is like through this, and what actually happened, because we don't know anything, literally.
Maybe because of that, maybe the story will like alternate from like his time lost and like his time back, like The Godfather 2 or something, like 2 different narratives going on at once.
Yeah, I think
if they could do it with all those pages,
because they kind of did that with the first one, so there was a few flashbacks and the story went on with it. So I think that seems to be how it's going to go. But I think it works.
And also, who's to say Superman didn't make like enemies during that 20 years? Like maybe someone will come looking for him. Who knows?
That's true.
You don't know what happened.
And always looking over his shoulder for something. Yeah.
We don't know how dark what happened there. Like it could be something. It could be the norm for him, but it could be something really distressing, like the whole Warworld thing. You know, something.
Yeah, I definitely got an Odyssey type of vibe from it. You know, Ulysses trying to get home.
Yeah,
and all the stuff and even the questionable stuff that character does in that classic, Legends. It's feels like this is being applied to Clark, so it should be interesting. I think this will be a space story that we haven't really dealt with before. So again, it's new.
It's cool.
Yeah. A lot of things with the Superman family at the moment. And speaking of new things, so a reminder of the upcoming series that are coming. So we got a bit more information about Steelworks. So they confirmed that Michael Dorn will be writing the series, and he is the original voice of Steel and Superman the animated series, which is pretty cool. I've seen a lot of response where people are mad that he's writing it because he's not a comic writer and he's not a writer, but he has history with the character.
You could be surprised by like what some like Gilbert Gottfried had an all right story. There's some good people that can put out good stories.
Yeah.
Michael Dorn, did you say his name? What? Michael Dorn?
Yeah.
Definitely one of the voice actors from my childhood.
Yeah.
He was the Dark Knight and Danny Phantom.
But yeah, you have to give him a chance. He might give us an amazing storyline. How often is it we get a solo Steel title? I think with Steel, he's an established character, but I think there's so much that you could do with him still that hasn't been done. So I think he's got pretty free reign in terms of that. I know we've kind of got a bit of a plot of what's going to happen, but I've never seen this before for him.
I really like Steel. Steel's been growing on me with Superman and Lois. Natalie, especially with like Warworld, seeing her in the show. It's like I'm glad they're getting more attention.
Yeah, me too. The artwork is by Sami Basri, who his artwork's great, and he's best known for his work on Harley Quinn. But I had a quick Google when I found out that it was him, and some of those pieces that he's done are amazing. So I'm looking forward to that one. Wayne agrees with us. He loves Steel, has faith in Michael Dorn. He's definitely not John Ridley.
True. Yeah. John Ridley would have also been a great addition to that character, but I think he would have taken a darker way, which would have been fine. Like, explore that. He's got a history. He's got kind of a darker Tony Stark history. Like he knew exactly what he was doing back in the day. But yeah. I think Michael Dorn. I'm excited for it because it's going to come from a place that we're not expecting, and again, like that's going to feel new and exciting. So,
did you see the announcement on a little bit of what the plot is?
Yeah, and I think they're setting that up in action pretty well right now. And I'm loving the fact that they're going to be bringing Lana back in. I actually kind of liked their relationship in New 52. I thought that was fitting for both of them, and it was interesting because they're characters that probably wouldn't really ever connect, and they did in a really interesting way back then. So I'm actually really excited to see them explore that again. So
yeah. To those that, if you don't know the rough plot, but John is set to take on a terrorist who's out to get revenge on Steelworks and anyone attached to it, basically. Like Dave said, they are kind of setting it up in Action Comics because we've seen some sort of attempts to destroy the
is
this
Steelworks?
I think it is Steelworks.
I think it's called Steelworks, yeah.
Yeah. But there's been some attempts to destroy that. Well, I suppose it wasn't an attempt. They pretty much did just to destroy it. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. Well, I'm assuming this is going to sort of lead off from that. So it's nice that it's been introduced in Action Comics because now it's got that wider audience. And if people want to see more, they kind of have to pick this up as well. I'm not going to read that comment.
But I was not reading it. Wayne did not enjoy John Ridley's Black Panther. So I read his Batman, the I Am Batman, which I thought was fine. So, but that was the only outing that I had with John Ridley. So yeah, okay.
Well, at least it's Michael Dorn, and we get I'm excited to see his take on it. Obviously, he's got history with the character, so it's obvious, and he's come back after what 20-30 years. Almost the animated series, 2000s, right? It's not 90s.
Well, it ended like 2000, I want to say. So it's like a little bit like 26 years, I want to say, maybe.
So he's come back to the character after all that time. So he's obviously got a lot of love for the character, which I like. And this one is my most anticipated release, Superboy, the Man of Tomorrow. I can't wait for this one. The preview pages we've seen looks amazing. Everything looks amazing. The covers look amazing. There was a cover by David Talaski that was recently released, and it doesn't look like art. It looks like a photo. It looks like a cosplayer.
In the outfit.
It's so good. But this one's going to be written. Well, it is written by Kenny Porter, who we had on the show last year, with art by Janoy Lindsay. Hopefully, we can get Kenny back after the release of the first issue or something, and we can deep dive into it. So that would be pretty cool. But both people attached to this book are extremely talented. The preview pages I've seen look amazing. The covers look amazing. If you haven't seen the covers, there are loads, just like every other Superman release at the moment. So go and check them out if you haven't already. But this was the DC Round Robin winner from last year. So this has been a long time coming. And I think they've built up the tension quite well with this one. So it was announced a while ago, but people are still thinking about it. People are still talking about it as they're kind of drip feeding information, which I quite like.
Well, I think it's going to hit at a perfect time. Connor's only been back for about a couple of years now. Bendis brought him back with Young Justice. And if you didn't follow Young Justice, he wasn't in much of anything, and now all of a sudden he's in action, and John's going off of his, solo stuff, and I think it's just hitting perfectly to introduce the character to people that might not know a lot about Connor, and to also give a Connor story to the people like me who know a lot about Connor. So
yeah,
it's great. I'm really looking forward to this.
I also like that, obviously, Connor's been in Action Comics recently with the whole Superman family introduction that they're kind of doing. And I love that he is pretty much the only one who hasn't had a redesign.
Yeah.
He's got such
they added the S on the front, I think, is all they've done.
You just can't change it. I think I know it's typical, like 90s cheesy, it's that kind of look, but I think if you change that, you're doing something wrong with Connor Kent, I think.
Maybe we'll see him put on the black t-shirt maybe at one point, but maybe.
Yeah, true.
Maybe.
But in this one, so Superboy sets on his own journey of self-discovery and finds a group of freedom fighters who go against everything that he and Superman stands for. So it sounds good. I'm just looking forward to it.
I love its
There's another one that's been announced. Batman Brave and the Bold is going to have Christopher Cantwell do a Superman story in it. And it's just going to be Superman. So I was like, I don't really know why they put it in Batman anthology. But yeah, I just read about that about a week ago, I think. And I was like, well, I'm going to have to get that too. So
loads of Superman stuff coming out.
Really?
I think that wraps up the topics for this month's show, unless you guys have anything else that you want to quickly talk about for the next 15 minutes.
I'm trying to think, I guess just we were skipping on Superman and Lois Day, so I mean that was...
Yeah, Superman and Lois has obviously been released. I keep saying issues, 2 episodes in, but because I'm in the UK and they're not released at the same time, I haven't actually been able to watch it yet, which is very annoying, but I'm hoping to catch up very soon. So we'll maybe do like an extended feature where we talk about what we've missed so far in Superman and Lois. So that's why we're not talking about it now. It's not anything other than that, just I haven't seen it yet. Well, in that case, firstly, thank you to everyone who got involved. It was great to chat with you again. I did go through a moment there where I thought the comments were broken because no one was getting involved. But yeah, thank you guys for joining in the end. To everyone taking the time to listen, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed, and join us next month for the next episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Take it easy.